Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown between two mighty warriors. On the left-hand side, we have Biblinton leading his favourite Warriors of Chaos up against Han Samurai and the Wood Elf forces. Now, this can be a pretty tricky matchup for the Warriors of Chaos for a few reasons. One of which, of course, is those air units that the Wood Elf forces can bring. And boy, oh boy, do we have a lot of air units here. Let's actually pause this because I've got a feeling, I've got a little hunch here that this battle's going to get underway rather quickly. So, for the Forces of Chaos, we have a cheeky little vanguard of Marauder Horsemen dotted all the way along. Looks like we've got a few Horsemasters in the mix as well. And their Royal Bodyguard shall be the Chaos Warhounds, looking to protect these guys from enemy skirmishers as much as possible. And though this seems like a lot of skirmish cavalry, this is certainly necessary in this matchup due to the amount of air pressure the Wood Elves can indeed bring to the table. For the rest of the build, we do have Chaos Warriors. I do love to see these guys in action. You very rarely get to see basic Chaos Warriors do anything, because Marauders are quite cost-effective and people tend to bring them for the most part. It isn't even Marauders in the front line, but on the flanks we shall have those more elite Warriors. And going rather wide up against Wood Elves, again, does allow you to absorb a lot of their missile pressure. We have a unit of Mirror Guard as well in the back here, protecting a Hell Cannon. Hell Cannon, relatively good at hitting flying single entity monsters due to the fact it tracks, but all round, up against the rather squishy Wood Elf forces, I can certainly see a Hell Cannon paying for itself if it doesn't get arrows of Kurnos to death within the first few seconds. We have Prince Sigvald the Magnificent, looking glorious, cowering in the trees, but I'm sure it's just part of his master plan for some kind of elite ambush, coming in of course with his regeneration armour, and with a Chaos Sorcerer of Fire with Burning Head and Fireball, as well as a Scroll of Shielding. Now often you'll see two wizards from the Chaos in this matchup, due to how effective the Wood Elves are at sniping out characters, but because there is a Hell Cannon, the Wood Elf priority is probably going to be focused on that instead. For the forces here of the Wood Elves, we do indeed have the Air Corps. We have Hawk Riders. I do actually quite love Hawk Riders. They weren't really ever picked before, and now they are pretty decent. They have a glorious AP charge. If they rear charge an enemy front line, they can certainly do some decent damage, and they've got really good synergy with Sisters of Twilight, who shall of course be brought here on their Mighty Dragon. Now for the most part, I think the Sisters are slightly better on their Eagle, but the fact you have an elf surfing on the head of a dragon who has antlers for horns, I mean, you can't get much cooler than that. Coming in, of course, with the breath attacks as well as Conjoined Destiny, allowing them to pop that lovely little hill if they get injured, as well as the bonuses for being on top of the Mighty Beast. We have a little core here of the Glade Riders with Hagbane Tips on the low ground, looking to pressure their enemies, some of the best skirmish cover in the game because they're so goddamn hard to catch with that poison. And then we have some Wild Riders as well as the Lost Silver Knights here to protect them. Lost Silver Knights did get a bit of a nerf from when they initially got released, but still are a very powerful unit, and the models are quite fantastic. It looks like we do have a little caster as well, hiding back here, and it shall be a Spellsinger of Life with Earthblood, and there's certainly no shame in bringing just the one spell there, because it's going to be so good with so much of this build as a whole. Load of Glade Riders with Spears also going to be supporting, and it looks like the skirmish phase is going to get underway. Now, the numbers may be on the Chaos side here, but is going to be the skill. That's yet to be determined, because all-round Glade Riders and Hawk Riders are very good up against these type of troops, but we have the Hell Cannon coming in and doing some really good damage. I'm actually a big fan of this pick here by Biblinton, and he is currently one of the really strong Chaos players in the game, and a player who's improved so much over the last couple of months in competitive play. It really has been a joy to watch. Hawk Riders are being forced back here. They know the threat of Biblinton and decide, you know what, we don't really want to tussle here. It looks like we're going to get an early Earthblood come down on these Glade Riders, but it may be a little bit of a mistake because they've probably lost a lot of models here, and the Earthblood, of course, cannot bring models back from the dead. Hawk Riders are continuing to try to pressure. It looks like they are getting the upper hand here, focusing down the Horsemasters, and all round, cavalry on the ground which throws javelins, axes and other stuff really struggle up against flying units. Their trajectory just doesn't really work too well for them, and they're certainly getting the worst end of the bargain so far. Though, of course, the Sisters of Twilight are also supported, and the fact Chaos will definitely win the infantry fight if it comes to it, or at least a ground fight. So, yeah, losing the skirmish phase a little bit isn't too bad as long as you're wasting all the ammunition on your opponent's troops. Another shot does come in from the Hell Cannon. Looks like it was aiming for the Sisters of Twilight, and it has indeed connected once or twice because their health is going a little bit low here, but of course they shall have that healing in the late game. Chaos Warhounds do pull out to the left-hand side, and they need to be careful because Glade Riders actually have really solid melee attacks, and if they charge in, they could really easily overwhelm the Warhounds. They should definitely be charging in here and forcing these guys back. But it looks like he's playing the safer game here. Glade Riders will be floating out over to this side to try to push the enemy away. Hawk Riders do continue to rain fire down on the Horse Masters, doing some lovely damage. Glade Riders also push forward to try and dart away, and we are going to have an extended phase here of just skirmishing. Both players trying to get the most out of their units, both with heavy skirmish contingents, and then we have the healing for the Wood Elves up against the Hell Cannon of the Chaos, which only has 19 kills so far, but has done some pretty solid damage, I think. The Sisters of Twilight continue to rain fire down. Hawk Riders down to below half ammunition at this point, which is a little scary. And a fireball does just singe the belly there of the Forest Dragon. I'm sure it did tickle it quite a bit. And another unit of Horsemasters has been forced back, which is a little bit scary now for the Chaos. And these Warhounds are currently just vibing out on this flank. Do decide to get out the way, because Glade Riders trampling you, yeah, that's not going to be a fun day for anyone, particularly if you are a small little doggo. All the skirmish is being finished off here by the Horsemen, though that Hell Cannon continue to pick apart at the Glade Riders. And it looks like one unit of Hagbane Tips may well go down here. They do get an Earthblood just about before the units do kind of split into different directions there. Hawk Riders up in the skies, up to 18 kills and 16, not too shabby whatsoever. Continuing to shoot down and focus on the Horsemasters first. Well, it looks like a lot of them are dead, so now moving on to the Horsemen instead. And once they do eliminate the skirmish threats here of Chaos, I'm sure the Wood Elf player is hoping that he can cycle charge the infantry to death. But this is a lot of Chaos Warriors of 100 armor and silver shields. The longer this game goes on, the more ammunition that is expended by the Wood Elves. I honestly think the better for Chaos. Bounce Power is still dead even at this moment, as another fireball does slap the side there of that Forest Dragon. He'll certainly be feeling that one a little bit more. And the cavalry contingent here of Chaos is having to fall back behind the front line at the moment. Hell Cannon has used up a decent amount of ammunition, still has 11 volleys left and 38 kills so far. And we can track this shot as it does try to hit the Glade Riders, and once again, just about connects, and a couple of these boys will be falling down off their steeds and to their doom. Marauders are going to have to raise those mighty shields high and just tank right now. They're going to receive a lot of pressure, and it's their job to soak it up for the rest of the build. Horsemasters have managed to return, but the Sisters are obliterating them. Up to 12 kills now. That spread shotgun style shot is starting to really pay some pretty huge dividends at the moment. More Glade Riders just getting a little bit pounded. Now, this Wood Elf approach is definitely not something new. I've seen a bucket ton in Torments recently, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I do think it's a little bit risky, because if your opponents go super wide like this, with Chaos Warriors and Marauders dotted all the way around, it can be a little bit hard to break them down if you've used up all your ammunition to deal with the skirmish contingent, but a lot of those forces are fleeing for their lives. Hawk Riders were trying to wrap around the flanks there to see if they could chase these guys off for good, but they are now out of ammunition. Poor little Chaos Sorcerer of Fire is now in the problematic situation, we shall say, of getting sniped by the Sisters, and there's not too much he can do about it. Then he's not going down without a scrap, and he does fire a fireball just wide of the Sisters, and then gets slammed in the face for his efforts. Glade Riders are nearly out of ammunition at this point, and it looks like the Lost Silver Knights have finally activated, though they take a Hell Cannon shot to the face, and that's 3 dead models straight away. The Hell Cannon, for those who don't know, does do magic damage, which of course means it's going to be perfect for dealing with the Lost Silver Knights. And they're going to have to get an early Earth Blood popped on them. A load of Winds Magic has already been used now by the Wood Elf player. Glade Rider's going to continue to use that ammunition where possible, though the Chaos Warhounds do smell blood, as the Glade Riders are pretty beat up by this point. All 3 units are looking a little worse for wear here. Wild Rise and Lost Silver Knights will start to drive forward. Balance Power, though, is slightly in favour of the Warriors of Chaos at this moment. It seems like the game thinks, you know, with the loss of ammunition, they actually came out slightly on top of the skirmish game, though they obviously lost more troops. Chaos Sorcerer is nearly dead at this point, but so is the Sisters of Twilight's ammunition pool, down to just 3 volleys. And the Hell Cannon's last shots have indeed been rained down upon the enemy. 55 kills, and let's have a look, 1,721 damage value. Not bad for a day's work. And now the Warriors of Chaos are unfortunately going to be in the tricky situation of having to push forward. We're going to see a Burning Head come down, trying to catch the Silver Knights as well as the Glade Riders, but it was a little bit late there, unfortunately, and didn't get too much glorious work done. The Chaos Warriors are holding the line now. The Silver Knights are certainly no joke, one of the most hard-hitting cavalry units in the game, alongside the Wild Riders, and those Chaos Warriors take a massive damage there on the approach. But one thing to be said here is Prince Sigvald is still full health. none of the ranged firepower could really go into him, and because of that, he can be quite problematic the later the game goes on. Chaos Sorcerer did pop down a Scroll of Shielding on himself to try to keep him alive, and it looks like he may have a chance of rallying here, but the Hawk Riders are feasting upon the soul of the Hell Cannon right now, and if one unit just disengages, they can really pummel this Chaos Sorcerer and get him off the battlefield for good. Looks like Chaos Warriors are pushing a little bit wide from each other. It might be a good idea to stay quite tight and compact here, just so those cavalry charges don't do quite so much, but they are trying to shut down multiple units at the moment and bait in the forces of the Wood Elves. The Sisters of Twilight do glide gracefully down there on their dragon into the Warhound to try and finish them off, who also get charged by the Glade Riders. This is a really nice divide and conquer tactic, attempting to come in here by the Wood Elf player, and Hound Samurai is an experienced tournament player himself. Chaos Warriors do crash in though, trying to save their doggos, but it looks like it's going to be a little bit too much for them. Wild Riders, Lost Silver Knights also following up with that charge. And all of a sudden, the bounce pie is back even. The Wood Elves are kind of in this game again. And it looks like that Chaos Sorcerer will certainly be getting forced off here. Hawk Riders swooping up and down, pecking at the eyes of that Sorcerer Lord, trying to feast upon his glorious soul. Glade Riders are once again trying to chase off Chaos Warhounds, who are broken and running for their lives. And it's also looking a little bit bleak, kind of sadly here, for the Warriors of Chaos, but Chaos Warriors, they're holding the line. They're not going down without a bit of a scrap here. They want to see blood for the Blood God, and blood for the Blood God they shall get. Wild Riders are now forced off, staying in combat slightly too long, and the Sisters of Twilight really overstaying their welcome and struggling to get up into the skies. Glade Riders are going to have to force themselves into the engagement, likewise the Lost Silver Knights, just to allow the Sisters to get back up into the air, retreat, and come back into the fight once more. And yeah, they certainly needed that right there. Big Fat Breath Attack does come down, and that is one of the weaknesses of Blobbing Up, but it doesn't catch the Mirror Guard, only the basic Chaos Warriors, so the Warriors of Chaos player is certainly going to be relatively comfortable with that trade. Prince of Gold is dishing out the damage to the Lost Silver Knights, and a lot of them are getting pinned in now. Chaos Warriors have pretty solid mass. They've got mighty shields, thick armor, and these Knights are getting a little bit stuck in here. You can see them kind of trying to trot along, and many of them are now starting to get dragged down. Sisters use up the remainder of their ammunition with one last desperate shot, but that is one hefty, just iron fist of Chaos Warriors there. In the distance, the Chaos Sorcerer just won't die. This must be so infuriating for the Wood Elf player, and just as I say that, he does indeed die, so curses the commentator there, apologies to the Chaos player and Biblinton, but it was inevitable. Once again, the Sisters do have to charge in here to try and get value, but their attack animations drag them quite deep in, and it looks like this time they're just about going to be able to get out the way. Yeah, some Chaos Warriors try to put their bodies on the line. Sisters, though, do still take damage every time they swoop in like this. Hawk Riders with their armor piercing and beaks are going to clatter into the flanks to try and allow the Wild Riders and Lost Silver Knights to pull back through them. This is really good cycle charging. You kind of cycle charge the same area, so you cycle charge them with one unit, you then charge them with another, and that enables you to pull back through friendly troops. It is really quite powerful. So the Sister Twilight trying to clatter into this Chaos Warriors bundle here. And it looks like they're going to do just that, flinging Chaos Warriors left, right, and centre, but more do come in to try to ensnare the beast. Hawk Riders are going to react quite quickly, though, in an attempt to save the Sisters. We've got Wild Riders, Lost Silver Knights, all the Glade Riders coming to try to rally it to their queens here. Chaos Warriors and Chaos Marauders counter-charging some Glade Riders, looking to finish them off for good. And where is Prince Sigvald? He is just fine and dandy. Only 12 kills, but full health. He's having a whale of a time, looking at his own reflection in the shields and bodies of the Mirror Guard, and just slaughtering elves who do get too close. Glade Riders are being forced back here. It looks like a lovely little surround on these Chaos Warriors. Should be able to break them due to the power charge there by the Hawk Riders. And 2 units are now broken. And Chaos Warriors shall be counter-charging, though, Wild Riders and Lost Silver Knights, who are starting to get a little bit danger low. Likewise is the Sisters of Twilight. But, of course, they do have the ability to heal up quite nicely if they take below, I believe it's 20% health. Let's have a little look at the Conjoined Destiny. Yeah, below 20% health, they have to survive 30 seconds, and they get a whopping 1,872 hit points. That is very tasty indeed. Sometimes you actually want them to get a little bit low. Prince Sigvald is currently just wandering around the madness. A lot of Chaos units are starting to run for their lives. Prince Sigvald is going to get in here, though, and fight some of the beasts. Hawk Rider just glitches out on him in his pure beauty, just stunned by Prince Sigvald, who's trying to gain some attack animations. He's staggering back and forth, though, surrounded in blood and the dying friends and enemies. But, you know, that's the average life of Prince Sigvald, I guess. We swoop out back now. You can see the absolute carnage which is unfolding. so many Warriors of Chaos units are starting to run. Chaos Warriors barely hanging on at this point, and it looks rather bleak. Balance of power for the first time in the game is in favour of the dreaded Wood Elf Kite game. And it's doing pretty damn well. Mirror Guard do manage to stabilise though. They're immune to psychology, which is very crucial here, because the Lost Silver Knights and of course the big scary dragon do indeed cause terror. And they're working as really good bodyguards here for the Prince. Sister Twilight charge in once more, looking just to finish off these units. If I'm the Wood Elf player, I'm probably just going to be driving off, chasing off these Chaos Warriors with a few units to ensure they don't physically have an opportunity to come back. He's trying to finish the game maybe a little bit tad too early, and he's got to be careful. Sisters do get their little boost there, so they're going to get healed up in 30 seconds if they survive. That's a big if. Down to 234 HP. They just managed to get back up into the skies, and it is now Prince Sigvald versus the world, which probably isn't going to go too well for him. We do have Warriors of Chaos who may rally. 29 troops here in the distance. Their leadership is positive, so I don't know why they haven't come back yet. They should definitely be returned to the field. It looks like they're going to do just that. And we do have that big hill go down on the Sisters, which is pretty crucial and scary. And once again, they're going to charge in after the Prince. But don't ever count out Prince Sigvald. I've seen him win enough fights against absolutely ridiculous odds before, simply due to the fact he just doesn't ever get hit. And he maybe has a chance to do this if he can rally his other troops. The Mirror Guard are running for their lives, but we have 28 and 29 Chaos Warriors coming back in. That's a really nice buffer for Prince Sigvald, who's taken quite a considerable amount of damage now on the charge. The Sister Twilight, I think, have used up all their breath attacks. Maybe there's one left in the tank, and if it is, now would be the hour to use it. Lost Silver Knights do clatter into the Chaos Warriors, terrifying them and deleting them, and in comes that last breath attack, and oh, that's some juicy damage on the Prince. Down to half health at this point, the dragon swoops in, and I don't think there's any hope. It's been a fantastic game by Biblington, but the dreaded Elvish cycle charging in the late game does seal victory. A valiant defeat. Well played to Biblington and Hand Samurai. Honestly, a really fantastic, fun game all round. I know some people don't appreciate the skirmish game, but I do like to show it on the channel as well. Likewise, I like to show meat grinders of just like melee forces. But I think it's a pretty interesting tactic and has been used throughout history, this kind of hit and run style of approach. And Hand Samurai is one of the better players at pulling this off, particularly with Wood Elves, who are of course themselves designed for this, right? That's kind of what they're meant to do. Well played by Bib though. I think it was a really solid build and a very valiant effort. Many have fallen to the blade of the Samurai before. We will get into the damage dealt and damage value of all the units in just a second, but if you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a big fat juicy thumbs up just down below, subscribe for more glorious Total War Warhammer content, and leave a comment down below. What's your favourite moment in this battle? Who was your MVP? What do you think of Chaos versus Wood Elves, and how do you personally deal with the Wood Elves skirmish game? This is really not something new. These Wood Elf players at the moment love this style of play, up against Chaos, just going full mobility. We can't physically win the infantry fight, so we're not even going to bother. We're just going to bring full kind of kite and skirmish and do a little bit of hit and run, and it can really pay off quite well. So how do you guys cope with it, and how do you guys yourselves feel what you do with the skirmish game? Or feel free just to yell quack, you know, I do really enjoy reading all those glorious comments. There are links down below in the description to my Patreon, where you can support the channel, my Discord, where you can submit replays, get involved in the tournament scene, and all that good stuff. And also, come chill out with us. There's like over 600 something members, new players, experienced players. There's always time to find games and train and have fun and all that good stuff. There's also a link down below to my Games Planet account. If you buy games through there, you get a bit of a discount. And currently they're doing discounts on Total Warhammer 3 and the latest Warhammer DLC, which is pretty damn cool. So, for the force of Biblington, how did his troops perform? Well, Prince Sigvald was pretty damn magnificent. 2,395 damage value. But if you want to know how to kill Sigvald, this is how you do it. You leave him to the end. You just isolate him at the end, and then you charge him into oblivion, and that did happen. But despite that, he got some pretty good value. But when his friends abandoned him, you know, there's no mirrors for him to look into anymore. If you're beautiful, no one sees you. Are you really beautiful? All those philosophical quotes. And it got to Sigvald's head, and he unfortunately collapsed and died. 962 damage value there from the Chaos Sorcerer Fire, doing some pretty decent work with those fireballs. and the Chaos Warriors across the board performed really quite nicely. Actually, very well. I mean, the Marauders kind of struggled, which is expected. They took a lot of that initial firepower as well, but the Warriors, 600 damage value, 1,094, 818, 1,189, 989 on the Mirror Guard, really dragging down some of those troops and nearly pulling it off. It really is, though, those just stacks and stacks of debuff to your leadership, the fact you're charged, the fact you're hit from the rear and the flanks, it really does earn you to their effectiveness, and the Horsemen really struggle to get value. The Horse Masters fared slightly better, but they're a lot more expensive, and all round the Skirmish game was unfortunately out of the hands of the Chaos player. Warhounds couldn't do too much either, though the Hell Cannon performed well. 1.7k damage value, not too shabby whatsoever. It got a lot of kills. Maybe it would have been worth just targeting the Sisters, though, maybe, and trying to get them off the field earlier, because a lot of the Glade Riders did use up their ammunition regardless. The Sisters of Twilight, 130 kills, 3,232 damage value, nearly 20k damage dealt. Oh, that's pretty damn powerful. Of course, the Spell Singer Life just did her job with those Earthbloods. The Glade Riders across the board didn't do too much. The Wild Riders, on the other hand, 1,000 damage value. Only 976, though, on the Lost Silver Knights. Not paying for themselves, but of course, Terror is a very useful tool, which isn't considered in the damage value and all that good stuff. Plus, they were still going at the end, so they could have dealt more value here. The Glade Riders of Hagbane Tips, one of the best skirmish cav units in the game. 858 damage value, 643 and 789, it's not too bad. Really good play by the Hawk Riders. Use them aggressively, which is how I like to see people use Hawk Riders. And they got 1,191 damage value and 1,328. Been a really useful tool as well, just to finish off that Sorcerer, drive them away from the battlefield, and then come back in the late game to wreak bloody havoc amongst the forces of chaos. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, peace, peace, and stay awesome.